Hey guys, and welcome to a new game. Well, I say it's new, it's in open beta, it's as most of these new online releases tend to be. It's called Scrolls, and it's by the makers of Minecraft, Mojang. And it's a collectible card game, which is something Tom has quite a lot of experience in, myself less so.
Only it's a crossover with the sort of online computerized variant. It almost feels a bit more like a strategy game at times, simply because the game takes place across a sort of chessboard-esque arena. So there's a bit more sort of strategy in terms of placement than you would normally expect from a card game of this nature.
What we're going to do on this video is I'm going to play a game and we're going to sort of introduce you to Scrolls and show you what it's all about. We're probably going to talk to you from two points of view really. Some people that have played Magic the Gathering in the past will understand the comparisons we're making, and those of you who've never played Magic the Gathering and this for whom collectible card games is a brand new experience, we're hoping you can sort of understand what we think is good about this game and what we think is bad. Initially it's not too expensive to buy and get set up with. There's no point really buying any of the extra content in the game at the moment because there isn't enough content to pay for. So it's just a case of really buying the game and getting set up, much like Minecraft was, to be honest. This is your main login screen, and then you move on to the arena. When you buy the game you have to choose a deck. There are 3 decks to begin the game with, in 3 colours. I'll show you.
Choose blue.
There's blue, red or green, and yeah, basically choose blue because blue is pretty much the most overpowered and best deck at the moment.
The reason for this is a specific ability of one of the creatures, which we will come to in due time, and we will see the full effect of this horrible mechanic as we grind our legions fruitlessly against it.
I'm going to go into a ranked match online against someone else, and then we'll sort of talk you through it and you'll quickly see what we mean.
Yes, so when you first start up, there are essentially two things you can do. The first is what we're doing now, which is rank matches. It's just a standard online matchmaking system. You get matched against an opponent in similar ranking. You play, if you win, you gain ranking. It's not rocket science. The other thing is trials in the single player, or just random games. Trials are essentially preset challenges, some of which are incredibly easy, some of which are ridiculously hard. And they will give you gold for the first time you complete them, which will enable you to buy more cards. So you're not forced to immediately jump into the crazy world of online games with just the pre-constructed deck if that's not what you want to be doing.
So here we are, we've entered into a game and the opponent had the first turn. And we've entered into first turn. I just said good luck, have fun, polite. You'll notice it's basically like a grid. So here we are, we've got, you have 5 idols, each with 10 health, and the win condition is you have to destroy 3 of your opponent's idols. I just had my turn, and in each turn you can click on a card and choose to either sacrifice for resources, which is much like mana, which is the thing you spend to play your cards, or you can sacrifice a card to draw 2 new cards. So obviously I chose
We've
to
currently got
sacrifice
1,
resources.
and we play Raggedy Wolf, who's very raggedy, and also a wolf, hence the name. And he has 2 stats, one of which is power. He deals 1 damage when he attacks. The second stat is his health, to the very right, so he has 2 health, and health does not regenerate at the end of each turn in this game, unlike some some card games. So once your mob takes damage, it's going to stay damaged and eventually die. And the last stat is the center one, which is 2 again, which is every 2 turns it attacks. So the lower the middle stat, the better. To the point where creatures with 1 as their middle stat are extremely powerful, to the point of being kind of broken.
I mean, this can seem quite an overwhelming concept when you're faced with this, because if you just play with the pre-constructed deck and just start to get used to the game, you'll understand this a lot more, because it can be quite daunting. I mean, essentially there are a couple of different card types. You can have creatures, spells, enchantments, or walls. And I mean, it's very similar to Magic the Gathering, but it's different because it adds the element of this board, and that in itself lends a certain element of strategy. It's difficult for me to talk as much and play, so I'm going to let Tom do some of the more intricate explaining, but I think you sort of, just by watching this, you should get some of the basics.
Yeah, so essentially what we've got here is our opponent, regrettably, is the blue deck, the order deck, and he has some soldiers. We have a pair of wolves. Our wolves, as you can see from mousing over the various stats, are woefully underpowered compared to his soldiers. So we're going to have to draw something here to get back on an even footing with him. In our hand we have a few cards which don't really do a lot. We've got Quake, which it deals damage to all creatures in play and all structures. And our totems, which on their own don't do a whole lot. All they do is buff our attack power of our creatures, which is good, but we need creatures to buff the attack power of, and 2 Raggedy Wolves isn't really cutting it. Oh dear. So now what he's done there is he's reduced the cooldown on his front infantryman from 1 to 0, which means it can now attack this turn. So it means that our wolf is going to get clobbered, as he did. And of course we draw a 7 cost card for our turn, which is incredibly useful. I'm just going to go ahead and sack that. We're currently in a sticky situation here because we've got not really enough mana to cast anything, and all we're drawing is expensive cards.
I mean, in Magic the Gathering, you always attacked the player, and it was up to the player whether or not they decided to block you with creatures. In this game, you can actually, because you have 5 idols spread across the board, you can pretty much choose to attack creatures by just moving them in front of other creatures. I suppose, and the other thing is you're basically forced to attack. As soon as the cooldown reaches 0, your creature will attack whether you want it to or not. So there is a lot of added elements of strategy in this game. Just debating what to do here, whether to sacrifice for mana and play a totem, or... because I think
the best thing is to sack one of these Quakes for mana.
Well, I'm thinking I might need to double Quake.
We probably will need to double Quake.
Hence why I'm thinking of just sacking for mana. Thinking if I sack... I think I'm just going to build up to a double... yeah, I think I'm just going to build up to a double Quake. Inevitably he's going to play some more creatures now.
Ah, everyone's favourite. Now this is one of Blue's specialities, the Waking Stones. Now Waking Stones is a structure type, which means it cannot attack and you cannot move it around the board. It is there essentially to protect your creatures behind it and enable them to keep dealing damage whilst not being able to be attacked. The reason Waking Stones is so annoying is because all damage dealt to it is reduced to 1. So you have to deal 3 separate points of damage to this thing. Even if your creature has infinity attack power, it will not hit this thing for more than 1. Which is rather irritating, to say the least. The only way of dealing with it is to just grind through it. or ignore the lane that it's in completely, which is probably what we're going to be doing here, as this bottom lane is more or less written off.
Yeah. I mean, Magic the Gathering players are going to be able to jump straight into this and immediately find familiarities. New players are probably going to enjoy just it being a fresh game they can play. I do think there are certain elements of this game that can be changed. You'll notice later on when we start to get into creatures with spiky or ranged creatures, I think there should be some distinction between melee and ranged. We've come up with a few other suggestions of ways we could have multiplayer by adding in, say, 10 idols with, you know, because the multiplayer element in this game is lacking at the moment. So what we've got here, you can see I'm severely outnumbered.
By
on the board.
lacking?
He has 3 creatures.
By lacking you mean non-existent, right?
Yeah, non-existent. He has 3 creatures on board and a structure. I've basically been forced to quake, so that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Quake is a spell that obviously deals global damage, like that. And next turn, hopefully he plays a few more low toughness creatures out, so we can just quake again and get rid of them. Of course he probably won't, but... Here is hoping. Oh, how fun. Now he's quite far ahead. He has 8 mana to our 5. A couple of creatures on board. Just 2 cards in hand.
Yeah. I will probably play a Kinsfolk Veteran and take that down to 1 health.
You could quake and then next turn you can play the veteran and then kill it. Unless he moves it behind the stones. Which
Very
case,
true.
whatever. But, the Kinsfolk Veteran, you will notice, has an ability called Haste, which anyone who's played Magic the Gathering will find incredibly familiar because it's exactly the same ability as what appears on Magic cards. It comes into play and it attacks immediately. It does pretty much what it says on the tin. It's hasty. You can see this guy, he looks pretty hasty. He's got like a helmet and everything, but don't let that detract from his hastiness. He's going to come in, he's going to be immediately into the red zone.
So, obviously I'm in a position where one of my idols is down to 4 health, but I've taken... I did take his down to 9, and then he played that spell that healed them all up. So he's got a
So what's interesting to note
going on there.
is that he's essentially killed our bottom idol. However, the best tactic in this game is usually you simply ignore either the top 2 or the bottom 2 rows. You just completely ignore them. You don't bother defending them. You let your opponent do whatever they want. You focus on the middle row and the other 2 rows. Because it doesn't matter if they kill 2 of your idols. It doesn't actually matter as long as you're still alive. So this is kind of probably hopefully what we're going for here. We're just going to be spamming creatures into the top part of the board and hopefully defending from his eventual onslaught when he comes to attack up there. If we can build up enough creatures, if he keeps attacking down here onto like empty idols, it'll be better for us because we'll have a bit of an army built up for when he eventually does come north, as it were.
Yeah, I'm hoping people are sort of following this. What he just did then was he dealt 1 damage to target unit to draw 1 scroll for 2 resources. So my creature there just had 1 health, so that was an instant kill. I'm hoping people are sort of following with what's happening.
Fortunately for our creature, it also drew a scroll when it came into play, so that wasn't as disastrous as it first appeared. As you can see, he has quite the army amassed. 2 vanguards and an honourable general behind Awakening Stones. This is not terribly good news for us.
No, the blue deck we've pretty much established is the strongest deck in game at the moment.
I've been working on the blue deck myself, and we haven't come across it yet, but the spiky mechanic is one of the stronger parts of the deck. Essentially, there are spearman type mobs that when you attack them with a creature, they will deal damage back to that creature. And this is difficult to fight through. So here you can play a veteran, and you can kill both his... No, the wolf doesn't have trample, does it? Well, you can kill his crossbowman and deal some damage to the guy behind.
Yeah.
You can also then put a statue in front to soak up some
Probably
of the
put in front of my
crackback.
totem.
Yeah, you could do.
We'll stick it in the middle for now.
If he wants to kill your totem, I think that's pretty you need creatures that can deal damage. I think that's 8 power, really. This is going to be a painful turn. Even more painful now. We
Here's
are
the
about
spiky
to lose
mechanic.
our entire row. Yes, this is a spiky spearman. He wasted his attackers.
And this is what's so nasty about the
Some
order deck.
stuff.
It's just wow.
Well, that's interesting. Our opponent has some shitty etiquette there.
I'm sure he'll be thrilled.
We have a new internet celebrity.
Ah, be fair to him. Go on and let's secede then.
To be fair, he is completely correct in that we have no chance of winning this.
We did lose. So I'm hoping you guys have seen the basic gist of it. So you have a board, you have 5 idols, 10 health each. Your objective is to kill the 3 of the opponent's idols. And you have creatures, spells, and the only things you can do is you can sacrifice a card in your hand for resources, or you can sacrifice a card in your hand to draw 2 new cards. And that's essentially the mechanics, and then every other rule in the game is basically written on the cards. The cards, or the scrolls, tell you what that ability or that creature does. And the creatures have attack, they have health, and they have their cooldown as how often they attack. And you don't get to tell them whether they attack or not, they will just attack every time they can. And they will attack in a straight line on the row that they're on, and they'll just gun straight for the idol, and anything in the way, they'll hit that first. So we'll probably just play another game and see if we can get a slightly better one that I get a slightly better draw in, and hope we don't come across a blue order deck. Again, new players should probably play the tutorial first and do some of the trials, which basically give you little challenges to complete. Maybe more familiar Magic the Gathering players. Well, apparently my identical twin.
Identical avatar. Well, seems okay. You got a one resource creature, to give it its proper name in this game. The Vetter of the Wild. The Vet of the Wild. Whatever you call it. This guy's a good thing to play early, because it increases your mana, your resources, by 1 whenever it's in play. So it's quite similar to the mana producing creatures you get in Magic.
I mean, where this game is lacking in at the moment is that it's a new release, it's an open beta. So the actual number of scrolls, I mean, a game like Magic the Gathering has been going for like 20 years or something, and has just a ridiculous amount of cards and synergy between decks, and this has 3 coloured decks at the moment, blue, red and green, with a black deck to come that will be released later on when it's ready. So we know there's another colour deck to come. There are very limited, oh, I haven't clicked enter, sorry. There are very limited decks, scrolls to actually choose from, so with the further implementation of more scrolls will come more synergy and hopefully some more mixed colour decks. There are other aspects of this game they can improve on, like I said, with multiplayer, with maybe different creature types, different creature abilities. All I can say is what myself and Tom have noticed the most is there is serious potential for this game, but that it needs more doing to it.
The largest problem with it that I can see at the moment is it's very difficult to build multicoloured decks and almost impossible to build any deck with more than 2 colours. I think that could use work. I don't know if it can be. It's more of a fundamental issue than anything. Our opponent commenting there on how he cast his Eye of Eagle spell, which is what we cast just then. And it happened to find a 1/1 haster, which he is able to use to kill our mana creature.
Oh, this is
Somewhat
interesting. I've not
fortunate
come across a mixed deck of blue-green before, so this could be interesting.
Yes, you'll see what he's played here at the front. It's got 1 toughness, and when he played it, it's given him permanently, it's worth noting, in contrast to the Vetter of the Wild, permanent order resource. Now, from what we can tell, you need these cards. You need 3, which is the maximum you can have of any one scroll in your deck. You need 3 of them to support playing your second colour, as it were. Otherwise you will fall behind. So you have to sack too often to get resources. And once
So
it's
I'm
played,
having-
it doesn't matter what happens to it either, it's a throwaway thing.
I'm having fairly bad luck here with my draw.
We could use a few three casting cost guys. Well, the 2 mana Kinsfolk guys. That's what we need.
That was a good play.
Oh, he just played. Now he had the haster again. We've drawn Vitality Wells. Hurrah!
Which are pretty useless. So you notice killing that Vetter took his or her resources back down to 4, and they've just sacked to bring it to 5. Oh, so this is now going to die. But I'm going to quake. So that cleared the board a little bit, took them both down to 2.
1 more quake and we're back in business.
No, I'm actually going to sacrifice this for 2 cards because it's pretty useless to me at this point in the game. Probably cast that.
Yep. And now Brother of the Wolf. Brother of the Wolf is an interesting card because it has what is known in this game as sacrifice attack ability, which means instead of attacking, you can opt to perform its ability. And in this case, the Brother of the Wolf will summon a Raggedy Wolf, one of the small wolves we've been casting before, in a square adjacent to it. The Raggedy Wolf will come in with haste, able to attack on the turn you summon it. And you can effectively churn out a vast army of wolves with this guy. He's quite strong, but you do need to protect him. He's one of the few creatures in the game with the sacrifice attack ability. Our opponent's been a bit more savvy than our last one. He's, instead of beating on the bottom two idols uselessly, he's moved his forces up to take on the middle row, which is exactly what you should be doing. Because it's not about necessarily killing your opponent as fast as possible. It's about grinding him down to a point where he can't come back and challenge you on the board.
You keep leaving your mic on.
I don't know why.
It's pretty much the most expensive casting creature cost in the green deck is this Kinsfolk Jarl. And there's the ability which you can read.
I find this guy a little underwhelming myself for being so expensive. He's essentially a big dumb beater. The best part about him is he attacks every 2 turns, which is more often than the other big creatures in the other colours, but I don't think he does quite enough to justify his massive casting cost currently. So our brother there summoned a raggedy wolf, which can now attack. He'll kill the sister of the wolf, the sister of the fox here, and then probably promptly die to this Kinsfolk veteran. Summon our own Jarl. Talk about the Jarls.
Yeah, I still feel like I'm playing catch up from a slightly bad start. I can turn this around. I've got a couple of idols on relatively low health.
The card that will allow us to turn this around, if left unchecked, is the Brother of the Wolf. You can keep summoning guys repeatedly, and it will translate eventually in conjunction with other spells like this God Hand into some quite tangible board presence.
That's an interesting placement of Vitality Well. I mean, what would be interesting about this video, guys, is if you want to leave in the comments section any questions or suggestions and things. It'd be interesting to get some discussion on going on this game, because the thing about collectible card games is there is no right or wrong way of playing it. You know, no one, even in like professional MTG tournaments, there is not one deck that is better than every other deck. There's always, you look at tournament winners, there's always about 3 or 4 decks that can compete, and sometimes it's how you put the deck together. There's pretty much a right and a wrong way of deck building as such, but there's always controversy and discussions on what cards are better than other cards, and it's always interesting to have that discussion on strategies and ways to play.
Indeed. I think the problem with this game at the moment is that there are very limited methods of building your decks. I think there's probably a right and a wrong way for every deck. There's certainly a best deck right now. Like its blue is probably best. Now, you're going to cast God Hand here. You could do quite some damage to his board, I think.
I'm thinking about it, yeah.
You've got an 8 power Jarl, and that guy can either attack or summon something. The Jarl is relentless, which means it will, as it says, hack through my opponent's creatures. So now that's given us we got back in this game now, effectively, because that card just wasted 3 of his guys.
I ran out a bit of time, so I had to kind of make that choice without really explaining what I did. The reason why I didn't summon was because if I moved the brother up there, the Jarl of this turn would have killed it. And I see, there we go, that was a good play. They quaked, dealt 3 damage to my structure and 2 damage to all the creatures, which effectively wiped most stuff out. Now this is interesting. I'm in a fairly strong position here. Now, the way I need to play this, I'm going to play the Great Wolf first because the Mangy Wolf actually reduces the cooldown of it when it comes into play.
Hopefully he doesn't have one of the haste guys here. Oh,
That's unfortunate.
Blessing of haste.
And you see, that's where he's gone for the order mana. So that was unexpected. I've lost my Brother of the Wolf. Now I'm actually going to sack this statue here for 2 new cards because that's what I'm lacking in his actual cards. Or scrolls, as the case may be. Right, now we're talking. That's sacrifice fodder at this point in the game. That's fairly useless, so I'll keep that in my hand. By playing the Mangy Wolf, I'll reduce the cooldown of this Great Wolf in order to allow it to attack, and subsequently actually increase its attack by 1, enough to kill the brother immediately. Which he won't like.
Or the Jarl, but probably the brother.
I'm going to take out the brother, yeah.
Brother is a little more annoying.
At the same time, I'll be playing the Kinfolk Brave at the back because they are... Now these I think are possibly the best and most powerful 2 mana creature, or 2 resource creature cost in the game, as they attack every turn.
And if you enchant them with power increasing enchantment, they are dealing a lot of damage. Probably more damage than any other creature, simply because they attack so often. Again with the Blessing of Haste. So you can play the totem, it will allow him to take out the Vitality Well immediately. Then we have a Brother of the Wolf. We can play both. We can play the Brother and the totem.
I'm actually thinking of playing the Mangy to allow the Great Wolf to attack, which will churn through that, deal that 1. Playing the totem will also then allow that to almost take out the Jarl.
I think the Mangy is a better play. Mangy and Brother.
I'm playing the Mangy, I'm just thinking totem actually.
What's the Jarl on?
The Jarl's on 5 health, you see, so he's going to take 1 from the wolf now, and then 3 from that.
You won't die, whatever you do.
You won't die, no. See, now in this game, creatures can only move 1 square at a time unless you enchant them or give them an ability to move further. So this Jarl can only move one square each way, which should be enough to allow me to kill it somehow. Well, I'm not going to quake because that's insanely detrimental to my deck, but that Jarl is going to hit for 4 and that's pretty nasty. But if I totem, I can take out the well.
Have you sacked yet? If you sack, see if you can draw.
That's interesting.
That could be quite useful. And Ragged Wolf as well, so you can technically take out the Vitality Well.
Yeah.
With the Brave and the Ragged Wolf. And then the Kinfolk Veteran could deal 3 to the Great Wolf. I'm not sure how useful that is.
The veteran can take out that on its own, and then the Raggedy Wolf can just deal 1 to something, but it's not insanely useful. I think what I'd rather do is play a bit defensively here. I'm going to play the veteran, but where I want to play the veteran is to protect something. And then I think the Raggedy Wolf will just have to deal 1 damage to something. At least the Jarl attacking can't kill. Now this is the new card that got introduced in the patch. It's 3 mana for a triple oh yeah, that was nasty. You can increase the Jarl's attack power. I've not got one in my deck as it's a new card, but it's yeah, 3 mana for a 2/2/2 creature. It's pretty good for mixed decks. In this case it was useless for her.
Did nothing in this game. Right, so brother can now spawn a wolf. You can play the totem, potentially kill the great wolf, maybe the Jarl. So play sister.
Totem's going down. So I've got 6 attack incoming there, which is enough to take out both of those. So that's that line gone. Summon there, that's enough to kill that new creature as well. So we've effectively wiped out the top.
You draw.
Yeah, I certainly can. And that's useful for next turn. So that was a fairly good play. We've wiped out the top most menacing creatures there. So we're now ahead on board again.
So we can now, unless depending on what he does, we can now think about starting to take down his actual life total in his idols. Starting with the middle row. So another great wolf is. And he's placed it in a place we don't really care about that much. So what we'll probably do here is just keep beating down his idols. Possibly. What happens if you quake? Which of your stuff die? I don't know. Never mind. You kill.
Most of my stuff dies, so it's not worth it.
So if you draw 2 off the quake, or that, another brother, another totem. Unfortunately, you don't have anything with trample, so relentless. Sorry. So you could summon a Kinsoak veteran down there and kill the sister that's due to attack. And let your other guys just swing at his idols and start depleting his health. And then play a Brother of the Wolf. Oh, no, you can't. Never mind.
No, I'm thinking I always like the Kinfolk Veteran as a response to a bigger creature, to be honest. I'm probably going to Totem and Brother again, actually, which, you know, is pretty insane, isn't it? And I'm so far ahead on board, I'm just going to start pounding. Now you can see all my creatures are hitting for quite heavy amounts now, so this top section of the board he's going to have to move to defend. I mean, I'm now in a position where I'm summoning a new creature every other turn, or every turn, because they're on alternate cooldowns. And each time I get a new wolf out, it's got 3 attack. And attacks instantly, so...
Now our opponent does have Quake in his deck, so We're not completely home and dry. You could very easily
True.
quake, and that would be very bad for us. Mangy Wolf is also pretty good for him.
Yep, there we go. So that's my middle row gone.
So what can you do here? You should probably kill the row, actually.
Yeah, I can, not quite. I can take out the sister, take out
the sister and the mangy.
and the mangy, and deal some damage to the great wolf.
Actually, you can kill the Great Wolf if you just summon your Kinsfolk Veteran in the back.
Yes, that's true, actually.
And you can summon up top and just do a bit more damage to his idols.
And Raggedy as well, just for good measure. To add
Let's
insult
kill
to
that
injury.
sister. A fairly devastating turn. He has stone nothing.
So I'm 8 creatures,
And I
2
wouldn't be surprised.
totems on board.
I wouldn't be surprised to see a concession. Well, actually, maybe he
Neither
will
would I.
keep because of. Actually, he's probably going to keep playing because if he draws Quake, he can still potentially come back.
Yeah. It's a pretty desperate last line of defence there. That's also useless as that deals one damage for 3 rounds, and that has 4 health, so it won't die from it. That's just a terrible card.
It's pretty wild.
And I have my 3rd ancestral totem, so this is hilarious.
And a champion ring. And where are you going to summon?
Right, perfect. Kinsfolk Brave with the champion ring is basically the best thing you can do.
So I imagine you play that out and totem. This is pretty ridiculous. You'd summon as well. Quake or bust?
Yeah, this is going to be a concede or quake, yeah. What you might have noticed in this game, Magic the Gathering Close, is there was also no graveyard. So when you play a card, it just goes to the bottom of your library again. So these games can just drag on and on and on because you just keep drawing the same cards. So even though, you know, you're limited to 3 creature types. Oh, good God! You're limited to 3 creature types. It doesn't really matter because if they die, you just keep summoning them over and over again. Oh, this is just
Crimson Bull give
horrific.
trample.
No,
No,
it doesn't. But it
no.
doesn't matter. I'm just going to play both of them and stack them.
Does that kill him instantly?
Look at how funny that is.
11 damage.
I didn't need to play both of those Crimson Bulls then, I just thought it would be funny. Well, this really is desperate now.
He's just trying to buy time to try and draw Quake.
Oh, God hand.
Oh, you've got to do
I'm
it
just gonna play it.
for the lulz.
There we are, for the lols. Game over.
Overkill.
Yeah, much overkill. That's actually every
all
idle day.
5 of his idols. Which is not something I've ever seen done before.
Such a resounding victory. Right guys, well I hope this kind of gave you an insight into Scrolls. As you can see, it basically, in one respect, is a Magic the Gathering clone, in the sense that it duplicates the idea of the concept of spells, creatures, and a collectible card game, and it's similar in decks, with green being fairly creature-based, blue being kind of more magic, red being aggressive burn, and the black deck to come, I presume, is going to be a bit more necromancy, death. I would say reanimate, but there is no graveyard in this game, and that's one of the things we've been talking about. Things that need adding to this game is maybe actually stealing some concepts and ideas from Magic the Gathering, such as graveyards and such as more multiplayer concepts and card types. But this game's in early beta, and there are things that it needs to add to improve on. The game's a bit imbalanced at the minute. Blue is quite clearly the best deck. There's three decks, limited amounts of scrolls. But I'm hoping you can see, just from having an actual board with hexagonal squares and 5 idols and creatures that attack on cooldown, it adds a different element of strategy to this game that gives it a lot of potential. Magic the Gathering's been out a long time, has a big following, but I think that Mojang got it right following on from Minecraft. There was definitely a niche and a gap in the collectible card game market for something like this. And I see a lot of potential in it, and I'm quite excited to play it. So I don't know what you think, Tom, but I'm quite looking forward to seeing where this game goes.
I think they need creepers as cards. You can summon them and then they blow themselves up with a hissing noise. Cash in on that earlier success with Minecraft themed cards. That's one direction they could take.
Should be a green rare.
Green rare, creeper, or enderman, and teleport around.
Yeah, there's a lot they can do with this though. Like multicoloured decks they're pretty hard to build at the moment. I've been trying to build.
I think the main issues is the multicolours. Just building a multicoloured deck is extremely hard to the point where it's just not even worth doing. You can't play any spells on your opponent's turn, so as soon as they click end turn, you just get to watch this sort of play unfold before you while being powerless to stop any of it, which is quite frustrating. So you have a lot of these spells, such as return target unit creature to its owner's hand, and you can't actually do it to stop them attacking. You have to do it on your turn. There's a lot of issues sort of they're almost fundamental to the game, so it's not like something they can just fix, because like they can't just fix the basic game rules. But some of them, it needs to be addressed in some manner, because some of the game, it will limit its growth if they don't address some of the sort of fundamental nature problems with it.
Yeah, it does seem strange to, being that it's a multiplayer card game, and you know you're playing against another human opponent, what you want to be able to do is respond and react to each other's plays. And almost in this game they've taken that away from you, because it's just like turn-based. You each get a turn, and you can't do anything about the opponent's turn. You have your turn, they have their turn. What would be nice is to actually be able to have instant cast spells that you can save some mana towards and actually react, which is kind of what Magic the Gathering offers you and this doesn't, but then this has other things. Before we end this video, I'm just going to show you how you actually buy new cards in this game. From winning, you might have seen I got some gold coins allocated to me from winning that game. I now have 1,128 gold coins, and I'm about to buy a scroll pack for 1,000 gold coins. You get 10 scrolls picked randomly from all factions. You're guaranteed to get 2 uncommon, 1 rare, and then 7 commons. So I'm going to go ahead and buy one of these and see what we get. So they're fairly useless. I like how they've added this, they've patched this in, they've showed you that it's common, shown you there are 9 scrolls left in the pack, in case you can't count. That's, again, a good spell, and it would be even better if you could actually react and cast to it. One of the major issues I have about this game, when it comes to creatures attacking, is that creatures don't attack back. Is that your opponent's creature rushes towards your creature and hits it in the face, and your creature stands there and takes it and does not attack back. The only way your creatures can attack back is if they have the ability called Spiky, which is just like a thorn effect from various other fantasy games.
Which isn't so much them attacking back as in the opponent running into a spear and damaging themselves. It's interesting that the creatures don't fight back in this.
I personally would rather they did fight back, because then you could use a card like this as a reaction to them attacking you, and then you could effectively kill their creature. So yeah, okay, that's interesting. I like the flavour text at the bottom.
So yeah. Also the image is one that sticks in the mind.
Kind of looks like you taking a poo.
Blood boil.
Again, they're very just these strange sort of temporary spells, which would be so much better as reactionary spells in an opponent's turn, rather than wasting that in your turn.
This one is officially the Iron Man, the Tony Stark spell.
I don't like cards like that. Right, 3 cards left. Next card will be an uncommon, and then another uncommon, and then a rare. So we got screwed over with the uncommon because that's a terrible card.
It's wild.
They're fairly cool. I'm pretty sure you're going to want me to trade you one of them if you don't have 3 already.
Look at him chopping his chest up.
Yeah, he is Silas.
That's what that is.
And the rare is a terrible rare.
Another, fairly insane berserker type.
Yeah, so that wasn't the best pack.
I think I've already got 3 Silases as well.
So that was a shame. But yeah, I'm hoping you've enjoyed this video, guys. What we're probably going to do with this game from now on is keep touching base with it and check out the patches and as more cards get developed. And we'll probably just do a video every now and again of us playing online matches and ranked matches, and with different decks. We'll try and build different decks and see where it goes. So thanks for watching, and hope you maybe start the discussion, get commenting on the videos and see what you guys think of it. Bye!